The crowd was already buzzing, the lights were pulling the entire room into a kind of electric silence, and the cameras were gliding over hundreds of eager faces when suddenly the host announced that the next performer was only 9 years old. A tiny figure walked onto the massive AGT stage with slow, careful steps, and the whole auditorium leaned forward as if pulled by the curiosity of a single string. In that moment, before a word was spoken, something in the air changed. Even those watching from home could feel it. They didn't know her yet, they didn't know her voice, her story, or the incredible moment that was about to unfold. But they felt something rare, something special. Before the world even learned her name, the camera zoomed in on her small hands gripping the microphone, and for a brief moment it looked like she was trembling, but then she took one deep breath, lifted her chin, and let her eyes sweep across the iconic faces sitting before her. Heidi smiled gently, Sophia nodded in encouragement, Howie looked impressed by her courage. But Simon, who rarely gave his emotions away, was studying her with a seriousness that said he wasn't ready to be impressed easily. And yet, he would be. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most powerful and unexpectedly emotional AGT performances of 2025, a performance that lit up the internet within hours, a performance that turned a 9-year-old girl from Cebu into a global sensation. If you've ever doubted how far pure talent can go, if you've ever wondered how a small voice can shake an entire world, this is the story you need to hear. And if you think you've seen everything AGT has offered over the years, get ready, because this performance didn't just impress the judges, it left Simon Cowell completely speechless. The story begins in Cebu, a place known for its warmth, its music, and its unbelievably talented young singers. For generations, families have passed down love for music like a treasure, and this little girl grew up in the middle of that culture. Her mother worked long hours. Her father wasn't always around. Life wasn't always easy, but whenever she sang, she said the world suddenly felt lightweight, like everything heavy in her heart just slowly dissolved. Her mother had noticed it early. Before she even learned to read, she would memorize melodies. Before she could write her name clearly, she could hit notes adults struggled with. But talent is one thing. Courage is another, and standing on one of the world's biggest stages in front of millions of viewers. That requires something far deeper than talent. Something almost spiritual. Her journey to AGT wasn't glamorous. They didn't have much money. The flight to the audition city was a gift raised by relatives, neighbors, and even her school teacher who believed in her dream. Her mom always said if God gives a voice like yours to a child, he must want the world to hear it. So they pushed forward, step by step, even when everything felt impossible. When she walked on that stage, that history followed her. That courage followed her. That dream stood behind her like a shadow filled with hope. Heidi Klum leaned forward with a soft smile and asked her name, her age, and where she came from. The little girl's voice was tiny, shy, but sincere. I'm 9 years old. I'm from Cebu, Philippines. I'm here to sing my heart out. You could hear the innocence in every word, but you could also hear honesty, the kind that only children carry before the world teaches them fear. Then came the question Simon always asks, the question that reveals everything: why did you choose this song? The little girl lowered her eyes for a second, smiled shyly, and said because my mama loves it. And because when I sing it, I feel brave. That was it, a simple answer, pure, real, and that alone made the audience soften instantly. The music started, a soft piano intro, the opening notes of Shallow. A song that even grown, trained vocalists approach carefully. A song known for its emotional depth, its explosive ranges, its dramatic leaps between soft and powerful. A song that requires control, strength, and raw emotion. Nobody expected what was about to happen. Not the audience, not the host watching from backstage, not the judges, and especially not Simon. She opened her mouth. The first note came out like silk. Soft, clean, without shaking. Heidi's eyebrows rose instantly. Sophia whispered while under her breath. People in the audience exchanged surprised looks. But this was only the beginning. Her voice glided through the first lines in a way that didn't sound like a 9-year-old. The tone was too rich, too controlled, too emotionally connected. She wasn't just singing, she was telling the story of the song as if she understood every word, every feeling, every struggle behind the lyrics. When she reached I'm Falling, her voice carried a softness that sent a quiet shiver across the room. You could hear people taking slow breaths, leaning in closer, completely captivated. Simon didn't blink. His face, normally stern, unreadable, even slightly intimidating, softened in a way that only happens when he sees something beyond extraordinary. He wasn't judging anymore. He was listening, deeply listening. Then the instrumental began to shift. The build-up before the powerful chorus. Everyone knew what was coming. The moment that would determine everything. Could she handle it? Could she hit notes that even adults strain on? Could she rise to the explosiveness of the shallow chorus? The little girl's chest expanded with a deep breath. Her eyes closed, her lips parted, and then, she launched into the chorus with a strength that didn't match her size. It didn't match her age. It didn't match anything the audience expected. Her voice soared, bright, bold, fearless. She hit every note with precision as if the song were written for her. People in the crowd stood up spontaneously. A woman near the front clasped her hand over her mouth. Someone else wiped their eyes. Simon leaned back, stunned. Then he leaned forward again as if to make sure he wasn't imagining what he was hearing. The power wasn't just in her vocals. It was in the way she connected. In every rise and fall of the melody. In every emotional burst she delivered with her entire body. She wasn't performing. She was living the music. And then came the note. The note that truly broke the room open. The long, high, flawless belt that the song is famous for. The moment where the singer either triumphs or falls apart. She didn't fall. She soared. Her voice stretched, lifted, and held the note with the kind of confidence that felt impossible for a child. The audience erupted. Chairs moved. People stood. Hands shot up in the air. It felt like the whole auditorium exploded with energy. And Simon Cowell, the man who had built his career on giving brutally honest critiques, was frozen. His mouth slightly open, his expression somewhere between disbelief and amazement. For a man known for being hard to impress, this was a rare sight. When she delivered the final line of the song, soft and tender, she ended with a small smile as if all the fear she had when she walked on stage had melted away. The audience immediately roared into a standing ovation. Some were cheering, some were crying, many were shouting her name even though they had just learned it moments before. The judges stood too, even Simon. The host ran on stage, unable to contain excitement, waving his arms as the crowd's energy doubled again. When the applause finally settled, Heidi spoke first. That didn't sound like a 9-year-old. That sounded like someone who has lived 1,000 emotions. You are gifted. You are incredible. You are a star. Sophia added, your voice touched my heart. The way you controlled the song, the emotion in your face, the power, it was unbelievable. You are going to go very far. Howie shook his head in amazement. I don't know how you learned to do that at your age, but talent like this comes once in a generation. Then everyone waited for Simon. Everyone knew Simon's reaction could define everything. He sometimes loved, sometimes criticized, sometimes surprised contestants, but rarely did he look like this. He leaned forward slowly, eyes still slightly wide, and said, in a low, sincere voice, I don't have words, and that almost never happens. You didn't just sing the song. You felt it, you lived it, you delivered it with a maturity that doesn't make sense for your age. You are not just talented. You are remarkable. Then he paused. There was a stillness, a quiet tension, and then Simon said something that made the audience erupt again. That was one of the best auditions of this season. The little girl's eyes filled with tears. Her mother backstage covered her face, overwhelmed. The audience cheered even more loudly. It was more than praise. It was a declaration, a moment that could change her life. When the judges voted, the results were, of course, unanimous. 4 big, joyful, undeniable yeses. The crowd cheered like they had just seen a miracle, and in many ways, they had. After the performance went online, it didn't just go viral. It exploded. Millions of views in the first 24 hours. Reaction videos lined up across YouTube as creators around the world replayed and analyzed her performance. Vocal coaches paused on her breathing techniques. Singers praised her control. Fans compared her to some of the greatest vocalists of her generation. People from the Philippines filled the comments with pride, saying Cebu always brings the talent. Others across Asia said she was proof that you don't need money to shine. Viewers from America, Europe, and Africa wrote that she restored their faith in pure talent. But the most repeated comment of all, how is this child only 9 years old? Her story inspired people far beyond music. Parents showed her performance to their children, saying look how far courage can take you. Teachers played it for their classes, reminding them that greatness comes from believing in yourself even when life is difficult. Singers began covering her version, not the original, because her rendition carried something deeply emotional. As days passed, Her name trended globally. TV interviews began calling. Radio stations played her performance. A clip of Simon's stunned reaction went viral on its own. And through all of this, the little girl from Cebu remained humble, smiling shyly during interviews, always thanking her mother first. She said the same sentence every time. "I just wanted to make my mama proud." And she did. She made her city proud, her country proud, and people around the world proud, because in a world filled with noise and rush and pressure, her voice reminded everyone of something simple but powerful. Real talent needs no age. Real emotion needs no training. Real impact needs no perfection. It only needs truth. The night after her performance, she and her mother sat in their small hotel room. They had no luxury, no fancy things, no big celebration. Just 2 plates of simple food on the table, tired faces, and a small window where the city lights twinkled. Her mom told her, "You did it. You really did it." The little girl smiled and said, "Mama, I wasn't scared. Not even a little. When I was singing, I felt like I was home." And that was the heart of this story. Not fame, not the judges, not the stage, but a child who found her home inside a song. As the AGT season continued, people waited eagerly for her next performance. Some said she might reach the finals. Others believed she had the potential to win the entire show. But regardless of what happens next, her audition became one of the most unforgettable moments of AGT 2025. A pure, honest reminder that once in a while, a voice comes along that doesn't just entertain, it heals. It lifts, it inspires, it makes people believe again. And that is why this performance will continue to be watched for years, played on repeat, analyzed, admired, and remembered. A little girl from Cebu walked onto a massive stage with shaking hands and left with a standing ovation, a stunned Simon Cowell, and millions of hearts captured across the world. Sometimes the smallest voices make the biggest echoes. And sometimes, magic really does happen on the AGT stage.